All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom, and welcome to the Big Honker podcast brought to you by Dive Bomb Industries. I'm Jeff Stanfield.
I'm Andy Shaver. This is 10 minutes of just tips, and I can hear my son yelling in the background.
He's very loud today.
Quite loud.
This 10-minute on tips is going to be the way to discipline your child who's being loud.
Yeah. This 10 minutes is it's about hunting on no-wind days, and this is also the last of the 10 minutes of just the tips until fall 2021.
Woohoo! We're all celebrating here.
There's too much shit going on here for 5 episodes a week.
So we're going to cut down to 4, and then when football season is, we'll be down to 3.
And we'll be down to 3.
Okay. So. Tim, no wind. We went through no wind today, and it's not pleasant some days, especially during a full moon. What can you do to help yourself on a day of, especially field goose hunting?
Really? I mean, it's just, it's tough. It really is. As Blake and Zach would say, go get a case of beer and watch the football game.
Can't do that, though.
Can't do that. So, some of the things that you can do if it's a no-win day, number one, you got to make sure that your hide is on point because your birds are going to circle a lot more. If you're hunting in the A-frames, make sure that your tops are, for those on video, make sure that your tops go over you, and because the birds are going to kind of work vertical and they're going to drop. So odds are they're going to check out your hide pretty well. So make sure that your hide is dialed in. We've actually gone through the last couple of days with no wind, and what I have been doing when the birds get over the top is I don't call as much. I've been doing okay, but not calling when the birds are directly over us. I limit my calling on no-wind days, kind of when they're on the corners, like we've talked about before. I'll hit them with the call. Really, it's just reading your birds and kind of figuring out what's working and what's not. But definitely make sure that your hide is dialed in. You might pull back on the calling a little bit, and if your birds are kind of getting to a point and not finishing, you might get a little bit more excited on your calls for just a little bit to try to suck them in that last whatever it is. But
what about the like wind socks? They don't help much when there's no wind, do they?
You could use the dive bomb socks. They've got the spine that snaps into place. You could use those. I really don't. If it's a no-win day and they're not going to create any movement, I don't really fuck with throwing them out there.
Unlike we're duck hunting, you can use a ripcord or an agitator from Lucky Duck or something like that to keep some movement in the spread.
Yeah, I mean,
or in the decoys. But on goose hunting, you're basically at the mercy of being hid real well, calling real good, and being on the X.
I mean, you got to be on the spot they want to come to for sure. Traffic days are not ideal.
Even like today, we were on the X.
We were on the X.
Still did not act like they were. They're not interested. They're just a full moon and no wind situation makes it double hard.
And no winter.
Yes, and we're getting cooler now. We've had some winter now the last couple of days, but not really winter. But we've had a stale winter or a stale fall, and we're going through a full moon phase, and no wind is 3 strikes against you right before you start.
Right. Yeah. Easily. But I mean, it's all about kind of playing with your birds, seeing what you can get away with. There might be a windy day where they want a bunch of calling. But if they're over the top of you, I would say just don't. But now, spread-wise, so if you ever watch birds land on a no-wind day, they're kind of everywhere, scattered. So that's kind of what I replicate with my spread. My kill hole will have more birds in it, will have more decoys in it, compared to a windy day where everything is much more defined, and that fly is going to fucking bother me for it being so cold. They're all inside now. But if you ever watch birds on a high wind day, everything's kind of more defined. That's when you see that U or that V or whatever. No wind day, you'll just have birds flopping in from everywhere. So kind of what I will do is I will have a much bigger spread, and I'll kind of have decoys everywhere. That way, when the bird did see something that he likes, he can just flop in.
He can go anywhere he wants.
Anywhere he wants. It's going to be hard to steer him anyway. Now, what I would not recommend doing is what we did today, which was crosswinding them on a no-wind day. It didn't really work. The birds circled the outside of our decoys, and we had hell kind of getting that last 10 yards.
Just one day's the day that even the experts have bad days.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of birds kind of circle and play the game. It just they were at 45, and I needed another 15 out of them, or 40.
So you expect tomorrow with a 15-mile to 20-mile-an-hour southwest wind, same conditions, to be hunting to be a lot better.
Well, and they're going to fly a lot lower, hopefully, and it's going to give them kind of something to land into, rather than just no wind and then they circle you. And if you're hunting educated birds, kind of like we are right now, they've seen every decoy spread that is imaginable right now. They've seen all the hides. They've seen people hiding in the They've seen people hiding in the spread. They've seen us hiding out of the spread. I mean, there's really nothing right now that we can throw at them that they haven't seen. We could increase in spread size. We could decrease in. I'm not going to decrease. I'll go bigger. But it's just right now. It's just going to be tough on no wind days. You're going to kind of have to think outside the box a little bit. Maybe making it a lot bigger would be better. More decoys.
I've had
just don't crosswind them on a no wind day.
I have people ask me all the time when I'll tell them, especially we have a lot of guys that are goose hunting that don't goose hunt all the time. They'll duck hunt, or they're deer hunters, and guys on the deer lease will come goose hunting for a weekend with us for a couple of days, or they're corporate customers, and they'll say, well, what does wind have to do with it? Well, wind is going to make the birds fly lower, first of all. The birds are flying from the roost to feed at a lower altitude when the wind's up.
Right.
Second, you can steer the birds.
Right.
That's the big thing, is being able to steer them and get them to kind of do what you want to do. They're still a wild bird. They're going to do what they want to do, but you can sure dictate a lot more with a little bit of wind compared to no wind.
Right.
And that's the biggest things. And when it's no wind, you can't do nothing to make the wind blow. So you can, motion don't work very good when there's no wind, because most all socks and everything move better when there's a ripple in the air. Right. So, anyways, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today.
It's just, what you're going to run into with no wind most of the time is that last 15 to 20 yards. That's going to be your biggest bitch.
The finishing part.
The finishing part. You might have birds cup up. This is what we had today. We'd have birds cup up, and they circle the entire spread. They do it 3 times. You would think, okay, maybe this is going to be the time, and then they would just go away. And, I don't think, I don't think that it was anything that was wrong. I think our hide was dialed in. I think we had a good spread set out. They were just, there's no wind. There's nothing to steer them. They circle the outside of the spread quite a bit, and then they leave. I don't necessarily think anything was wrong.
If we'd had a 15-mile-an-hour wind, how do you think you'd have done?
They would have had something to push them down. So the pocket that we left them, that's where they would have landed had we had wind. But instead, what they did is they just kind of circled everything, and then they were gone.
All right. Well, that's
so wind makes all the difference. Be on the X. Have your hide dialed in. Pull back on the calling a little bit, especially if they're right above you, because they're going to be looking. They're going to be scanning. They're going to be looking for the boogeyman, and if they find anything wrong, they're out of there. So pare back on the calling a little bit. Call them on the corners when they're starting to turn. Call them there. That might be where you need to flag them also. But just feel out your birds, and best of luck to you.
Yep, we're going into December. We got the first third of our season is over now. We get into the meat of it.
First third, we only had 2 weeks.
Well, the first November, December, January. We're into November. So, anyways, we've only had 2 weeks of season. We've had a good 2 weeks. Hope everybody has a great week. Be safe. God bless you. And thank you for listening.
Go check out all of our great sponsors. Go check out Blindgrass. Listen, if you're tired of brushing your blind every day, go check out blindgrasscamo.com and they can hook you up. Foul Bandits, they got a promo code, migration. Go to Gundog Outdoors, Dirty Duck Coffee, Pacific Call, Stanfield Hunting Outfitters, Dive Bomb Industries, Boss Shot Shells, Lucky Duck, Looking Glass Duck Club, 14 Cattle Company, William Chris Wines, and the motherfucking Ice Ripper J2 Outdoors. Bye.